Hello and welcome to Vidhammer, the battle report resource for Warhammer Fantasy. In this video we'll be covering a battle report for the final round of the Dark Side Comics tournament held in November of 2011 in Sarasota, Florida. This is a 2,150 point matchup between the Vampire Counts and the High Elves using the 8th edition rules. They'll be playing a custom scenario involving a battle over a warpstone crater. Each side gains victory points for controlling board quadrants and for being within 6 inches of the center of the board when the match ends. Additionally, in each magic phase, both players roll all of their power and dispel dice and give any die that rolls a 6 to the opposing player. For terrain, there are 4 houses placed roughly in the 4 quadrants and a river flowing through the board center. There are some scattered trees near the top of the screen and a portion of fence between the houses on the right. The High Elves place first and start by placing a giant eagle behind the leftmost house. The Vampires place a unit of 35 ghouls just to the right of the lower house on their side. The High Elves place a unit of 37 Phoenix Guard across from the ghouls, and the Vampires respond with a unit of 38 Grave Guard that go next to their first unit. 40 spearmen come down on the far side of the house for the High Elves, and the Vampires place their bunker of 20 skeletons behind the Grave Guard. A smaller unit of 16 spearmen comes into play for the High Elves on the right side of their battle line, as the Vampires place their final unit of 35 ghouls to the right side of their Grave Guard. The High Elves place 2 repeater bolt throwers behind the smaller spearmen unit, and the Vampires place their characters consisting of a White King Battle Standard Bearer who goes with the Grave Guard, and 1 Vampire Lord General, as well as a level 1 Vampire that both go in the Skeleton Bunker. The High Elves make their final placement of 20 Dragon Riders of Calidor that go on the far left flank, and a single character which is an Archmage General that sits with the smaller Spearman unit. In spell generation, the High Elf General gets Pit of Shades, the Withering, Enfeebling Foe, and Occam's Mindrazor. The Vampire General has Forbidden Lore and knows all of the vampire spells. The identity of the level 1 vampire spell wasn't discernible, but it also knows the vampire's signature spell, Invocation of Nehek. The Vampire Counts when the starting player roll and move their units forward, maintaining their original formation. In the magic phase, both of the vampires have Master of the Dark Arts, so the vampires generate an additional 4 power dice. After channeling, the vampires have 10 power dice against 6 dispel dice, but from the scenario modifier, the elves give 2 of their dice to the Vampire Counts, who give 3 back in return. The Vampires cast Invocation of Nehek twice, and since the General has the Summon Ghouls power, they can increase the unit size beyond its starting number, allowing them to add 10 ghouls to the rightmost unit. Next they attempt Curse of Years and another Invocation of Nehek, but they both get dispelled. Finally they cast Summon Undead Horde and bring up 17 ghouls to the left and right units. On the High Elves' turn, the smaller Spearman unit and the Dragon Princes move forward and angle in on the Vampire's battle line, as the other units move up for the impact. In the Magic phase, the Dragon Princes have the Banner of Sorcery, giving the Elves an additional D3 power dice. After channeling, the High Elves get 12 power dice, but give 5 to the Vampires without getting any back, leaving them with 7 power dice against 11 dispel dice. They cast Occam's Mindrazor on the Phoenix Guard, thanks to the Book of Hoeth giving irresistible force on any doubles rolled. They also attempt to cast the Withering on the Grave Guard, but the spell fails, ending the magic phase. In the shooting phase, both of the bolt throwers fire a volley into the lower ghoul unit for 5 wounds. On turn 2, the Vampire Counts turn their upper ghoul unit towards the cavalry as the Grave Guard head toward the larger spearmen, and the lower ghouls square off against the Phoenix Guard. After the magic phase fiasco, the vampires end up with 11 power dice against 7 dispel dice. Their first casting of Van Hell's Dance Macabre gets dispelled, but the next 2 succeed and move the Grave Guard and the lower ghoul unit into combat. With the remaining dice, the vampires use a bound spell from their Staff of Damnation, giving the Grave Guard and ghouls a free attack on the Spearmen and Phoenix Guard. The larger Spearman unit gets hit for 11 wounds, and the Phoenix Guard loses 7 models to end the phase. In close combat, the Spearmen hit the Grave Guard for only 2 wounds due to a large save from the White King's Regeneration banner. The Grave Guard kill off 13 Spearmen who lose the combat but miraculously pass their leadership test with a roll of Snake Eyes. In the lower combat, the Phoenix Guard hit the ghouls for 26 wounds who only deal 6 in return. The remaining ghouls crumble in combat resolution. On the High Elves' turn, the Phoenix Guard charge the Skeleton Bunker and the Cavalry charge the Grave Guard's flank. The Giant Eagle moves in front of the Upper Ghoul unit, and the smaller Spearman unit moves toward the combat as the General steps out of the unit for some fresh air. In the Magic phase, the High Elves are able to hold on to 6 power dice that they use to cast Occam's Mind Razor with Irresistible Force on the Phoenix Guard as their only spell. The Bolt Throwers fire at the only unit not in combat and hit the Upper Ghouls for 2 wounds. In close combat, the Phoenix Guard cut down all of the skeletons, and a discrepancy on the rules about crumbling had the Vampire General survive this combat, but all undead, even characters and generals, share in the crumbling characteristic. The Spearmen lay into the Grave Guard, who get another big regen save and only lose 3 models. The Cavalry contribute and kill off 4 more Grave Guard, who only manage to cause 2 wounds in return, failing the combat and losing 5 more models in combat resolution. In the third turn, the vampires charge the Giant Eagle with their Upper Ghoul unit. For Winds of Fate, the vampires end up with 9 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They cast Summon Undead Horde and bring back 11 Grave Guard. Then they use 6 dice from their Staff of Damnation, but the High Elves get an irresistible dispel. In the upper right, close combat, the Giant Eagle kills off 1 ghoul before it's plucked to death. The ghouls reform to face the field. In the leftmost combat, the Grave Guard roll their dice first and kill off 10 Spearmen, but they realize the oversight, so all of the Spearmen attack back and kill off a single Grave Guard, with the Cavalry getting 4 more. The High Elves lose the combat by 4 and run, but with the Standard Bearer as the only model left, he martyrs himself. Game time ended as well as the tape at this point, but the High Elves should have had a final turn and the Vampire Lord should have died to the Phoenix Guard as well. For victory conditions, this game was called a draw, but had the final turn played to fruition, the results may have varied greatly. Thanks for watching this battle report. Be sure to check back for more videos each week. Do us a favor and subscribe, and as always, send us a message if you have any tactics or matchups that you'd like to see. Till next time from the Vidhammer crew, keep fighting!